So we're going to do something unique. We're going to do a panel discussion with Shara Ashley Zeiger and Phoebe Pollinger. Shara is an actor, writer, mother, artist, and filmmaker whose work has been screened at over 75 festivals. Phoebe is the New Jersey State Policy Advocate for National Council of Jewish Women and the co-chair of the Reproductive Rights Committee. And it is my honor to welcome Shara and Phoebe to the stage. Welcome.
Hi. Hi. There are chairs. There are chairs. Yeah. Let me help. We've got chairs to make it comfy, cozy. You can take the handheld mics if you want.
Let's do this. We can do
What do you want to do?
We can do this.
We can do this.
We're good. We're good. We can do this.
Come on, I'm sitting down all the time.
This is good.
So I'm here with the awesome Phoebe Pollinger.
The awesome Shara.
And Phoebe, tell us about the National Council of Jewish Women and your role as the New Jersey State Policy Advocate and the co-chair of the NCJW Essex Section Reproductive Rights Committee. How do you come to this work?
Let me just say, it's a privilege to be with you tonight. So NCJW is a grassroots organization of volunteers and advocates. And we are inspired by Jewish values. We turn progressive ideals into action. And we improve the quality of life for women, children, and families, and safeguard, as best we can, individual rights and freedoms. And we've been doing this since 1893. Woo. Yeah, I'm very tired. You know, Shara and I were talking about how we all come to this work. And, you know, I think we come to this work through so many different paths. And part of what we roll into the decision to do this work is clearly our experiences. You know, who hasn't been discriminated against? Who's faced some sexual harassment? Who hasn't been paid the same as the guy sitting next to you for the same job? Who was told, you know, I don't think I'm going to train you for the job that you really want, because if you get married, what's the point? That was my experience. That was pre-Roe. I also think that we roll in to the decisions that we make about what we choose to do from the values that we have. And, you know, sometimes you don't realize, it's a little bit unconscious as to where those values sit in terms of what you make your decisions on. And I was listening to the beautiful eulogy for our beloved Justice Ginsburg, and I wanted to share this with you. The rabbi said, the Torah is relentless in reminding, in instructing, in commanding that we never forget those who live in the shadows, those whose freedom and opportunity are not guaranteed. 36 times we are taught that we must never forget the stranger. 12 times we are told to care for the widow and orphan. This is one of the most important commandments of the Torah. It's the Torah's call to action. And I realized that, yes, I think part of why we do what we do is because of those values. So in both of my roles at NCJW, I work with our advocacy committees at Essex County, New Jersey. I work with all of these state policy advocates across the country. We share ideas, we find out what each state is doing, and we have sections in hostile states and in safe states. And we're working as teams to share these ideas about how to move forward in policy, in advocacy, in rights, equity, and access.
Pretty cool stuff.
Pretty
I
cool
think,
stuff.
I think so.
Yeah.
Mara mentioned that she attended many free educational programs NCJW offered immediately after the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Will you talk about NCJW's offerings and specifically the Jewish perspective of abortion as healthcare?
Sure. You know, one of the things that really stood out from this decision was everyone wanted to know why someone else's religious perspective was being forced on everyone else. What happened to our church and state separation? Wasn't that one of our founding principles? NCJW signed an amicus brief with almost 50 other faith-based organizations talking about religious freedom. Jewish texts do not prohibit abortion. In fact, we require it if the pregnant person's life is in danger. We do not recognize in Jewish law a fetus as a person until birth. The paramount consideration is that pregnant person. And so what we did was we had briefings. We gave briefings on those issues of Jewish values and abortion. We gave briefings on what that decision was going to do and how we expected it to play out, not only in states like New York and New Jersey, which are relatively safe, but in the hostile states and the impact of the inflow of people coming to our states for care. We knew that there would be an increase in anti-abortion centers. These are also called fake clinics and crisis pregnancy centers. And we knew, unfortunately, that there would be a significant uptick in violence against our clinics, our providers, the employees at these places, and that has all proven to be very true. We work in New Jersey with the Thrive New Jersey Coalition. We work on legislation, and currently we're working on equity and access legislation. We got, finally, our rights bill passed in January. Thank you. But you know, rights without access are meaningless. So we are back, round 2. This is Reproductive Rights 2.0 in New Jersey. And we are back with the equity and access pieces. Plus, we are back with data security. We're back with clinic security. We are back with all different kinds of public awareness campaigns. Our AG has been incredibly supportive. You see on your tables, Know Your Rights from our AG. And later this month, we have a program for teens to explain to them what their rights are in New Jersey and how they can participate to ensure that their rights continue. So that's what we've been doing programming-wise.
So not much at all.
Not much.
So you mentioned fake clinics as one of your program topics. We understand that your colleague, Andrea Prestinario of New York section, is dedicated to exposing fake clinics, also known as crisis pregnancy centers. Will you talk about those centers and Andrea's work with Pro-Truth?
Sure. You know, these anti-abortion centers, they actually began in 1967, surprisingly enough, in Hawaii. And a guy by the name of Robert Pearson started the first one, and he wrote a manual, and it explained how to deceive women, dress up like doctors, put your place close by to a real medical clinic, you know, lie about gestational age so that if you can get an abortion, maybe you'll only be able to get it to a certain number of weeks. It's disinformation. It's shaming. These anti-abortion centers are religious-based in the main, and so they proselytize. If you don't go to Bible class, you don't get the chit for the diapers. It's terribly important today especially in light of the criminalization of healthcare, that people understand the difference between a real clinic, a real medical clinic, and an anti-abortion center. And so our fabulous colleagues here in New York have created Pro-Truth. This is a fabulous website. Information is on your tables. This tells you the difference between a fake clinic and a real clinic. So please, get the word out. It is important that people access real medical care. If you can support the Pro-Truth Initiative, please, we graciously will accept your support for that here right in New York. Thank you.
Speaking of support, tonight we are benefiting the Jewish Fund for Abortion Access, which is NCJW's partnership with the National Abortion Federation. Who are these funds directly benefiting, and how do we get them the help that they need?
Well, NCJW partnered with the National Abortion Federation, which operates a multilingual hotline for callers who need abortion referrals and financial assistance. So they will support travel, food, lodging, and procedures. They also have counseling, options counseling, very confidential, and they deal with each individual's special circumstances because, you know, each pregnancy is different. Each set of circumstances that these folks have are different. The Federation deals with so many stories, so many issues: domestic violence, rape, pregnancies that cannot be concluded. And it's so terribly important that we talk about these stories. They're important because these anti-abortion centers stigmatize reproductive health care. And that's what it is. It is, abortion is health care. And I know, Shara, that you have an incredibly compelling story about seeking abortion care, and I'm wondering if you would be kind enough to share that with us.
Well, I'm a storyteller, so
You're a storyteller.
guys are kind of stuck with me. So the onesie that my daughter wears these days whenever I go to reproductive rights things is, I would not be here if my mom didn't have an abortion. And people always look at me and they go, huh? I'm an ectopic survivor. Before I had an ectopic, people didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was. I consider myself a pretty educated person, and I'm like, what is that? It took a very diligent New York City OB, 12 blood draws, and 3 ultrasounds of going, this is weird, to learn that I had an ectopic inside my ovary, which is the rarest of the rare, but I'm that person. So an ectopic is when a pregnancy grows outside of the uterus of where it's supposed to be. Very often it's in the fallopian tube, but it could be in the abdominal cavity, it could be in the ovary like I had, or a couple other places. It's crazy. And it's 1 in 40, like 1 in 40 pregnancies is ectopic. That is how common this thing is, that nobody talks about. The only way to survive an ectopic pregnancy is to have an abortion. Either you are lucky like me and you have a very diligent team and you catch it early, which for me was 8 weeks with the electrical pulses of the start of a heartbeat, which really isn't a heartbeat because the heart doesn't exist. And you get chemo, which is like the 2-month-long abortion that they get to make sure that it's slowly disappearing, or you are unlucky and you don't know that you're pregnant at all, because the symptoms mimic a period. And so you're like, I had my period, I'm fine, what's going on? You start hemorrhaging, and hopefully they get you in time before you bleed to death. Because if it's growing where it's not supposed to, that's what happens. And today, what's happening in a lot of these states is that people are put on expectant management, and they are not being treated until they are hemorrhaging to death, even though they know that they have an ectopic. So it's kind of crazy what's happening. But this has also been happening for a while before that. I'm a filmmaker. I was, cleared to fly during my 2-month-long abortion story. And I had to pitch at a film festival in Biloxi, Mississippi, of all places. Great place to be. Started getting lightheaded, so didn't know what was going on, and called my doctors. I started bleeding, and they're like, you need to go to the ER because you could be bleeding to death. Grabbed someone I knew out of a screening, dragged her to the ER, and was like, these are my numbers. This is what my doctor's in New York says. Chest my blood, make sure I'm not bleeding to death. Have a seat, ma'am. We'll get to you. This was before Roe was overturned. 5 hours. Luckily, it was kind of on its way out, but had I actually been hemorrhaging, I would not be here today. So this, and my story is just a blip of a myriad of stories of abortion is healthcare. And now I have a beautiful daughter, and if I did not have an abortion, she would not be here today.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that really what has happened over the decades is that the opposition has created this alternate reality that there's no such thing as a pregnancy complication. There's no such thing as a miscarriage. There's no such thing as a 10-year-old being raped and getting pregnant. And so what you see today is the reality of abortion, the reality of healthcare, real people, real stories. There is no such thing as an exception to abortion. When you ban abortion, you eliminate the doctors. You eliminate the training. There will be no one there to do the procedures or even recognize that you need to be treated. So it's important that we talk about our stories, especially to legislators, and let them know the reality that abortion is healthcare.
So you've shared a lot of really great, wonderful information with all of us. What do you think people want to know in order to remain active and engaged in this conversation? How can the audience here and on the live stream make a difference, whether it's volunteering, joining their local NCJW sector, or voting in the midterm elections? Row your weight. Your vote. What should we all do?
Well, yes, and yes. I mean, basically, everyone has to get out and vote and get everyone else out to vote. And it can't just be the national elections at the federal level. It's got to be the school board. It's got to be this city council. It has to be your state legislators, your county legislators. You have to do this at every level. You see the landscape. You see what has been built by the opposition over the past decades, and you must get out the vote. Make the calls to Oklahoma. Make the calls to Iowa. Make the calls to Georgia. Send the postcards. That is critical that we all engage and do that. Yes, join NCJW. We have lots to offer. New York section, NCJW Essex County section. We're based in Livingston, New Jersey. We have a Bergen County section and a couple of, hey, thank you. We have a couple of other sections in New Jersey. We have a variety of issues that we deal with, and on your tables you'll see what we're up to, whether it's gun violence prevention, anti-human trafficking. We have a very large menstrual equity initiative, both at the legislative level and the community service level. In fact, over the past 4 years, we have distributed over 600,000 units of hygiene pads. So there is a lot to do. And please, please support these organizations as best you can. The local organizations support the Pro-Truth Initiative here in New York, the NCJW sections in New Jersey, and the advocacy that we're doing in order to pass legislation there to protect our rights and expand access and equity. And I think, you know, this is an evening to honor Ruth. She spent her life trying to ensure that the meaning of we the people is all the people. That is up to us to do. We can do this, you can do this, we have the power, we are the majority. Let's get to work.
Thank you, Phoebe, for sharing all of that with us. We're going to hand this back over to Ilana to get some more music going.
Thank you both so much. Let us all promote the pro-truth movement. What an incredible, incredible talk.